The bridge collapsed at 6:42 a.m., just as the city was waking up and believing foolishly that nothing truly bad ever happened before breakfast. One moment, traffic crawled forward in a sleepy line of headlights. The next, the world split open with a roar of tearing steel and screaming concrete, and the river below rose up like a dark mouth ready to swallow everything. Maya Alvarez was on her way home from a double shift at St. Catherine's Hospital, her scrubs still smelling faintly of antiseptic and coffee gone cold. She should not have been there. She should have been asleep. Instead, she found herself gripping the steering wheel as the car in front of her vanished downward, its taillights blinking once before disappearing. Her own car skidded to a stop inches from the fractured edge. For a heartbeat, Maya froze, then training took over. She slammed the door open, ignoring the shouts behind her, the horns, the panic. Smoke rose from twisted metal below. Somewhere, someone was crying. She ran toward the collapse, heart pounding, already pulling gloves from her pocket as if this were just another emergency room bay and not a broken bridge hanging over a river. That was when she heard the child. It was a thin sound, almost lost beneath sirens and shouts. A small voice calling for help. Maya followed it, crawling over debris until she saw a crushed SUV teetering at an impossible angle, one wheel wedged against a slab of concrete. Inside, a boy of about 7 clung to his seatbelt, his face streaked with blood and tears, his eyes wide with terror. "I'm here," Maya said, keeping her voice steady. "I'm a nurse. You're not alone." His lips trembled. "I can't feel my legs." The words hit her like ice, but she pushed the fear down. She had learned long ago that panic was contagious. Calm could be, too. She checked him quickly, carefully, speaking as she worked, grounding him in her voice. The car groaned beneath them, shifting slightly, and she knew they did not have much time. Below, emergency crews were still trying to reach the wreckage. The boy's phone lay cracked on the floor, but the screen was still lit with a photo of him between two adults, smiling on a yacht, sunlight bright on the water. Maya did not recognize the faces then. She only saw a child who needed her. With help from a firefighter who had finally reached them, Maya stabilized the boy as best she could. She shielded his neck, coached his breathing, and when the SUV lurched and began to slide, she wrapped her body around his without thinking, taking the blow as they were jolted hard against the concrete. They were lifted out minutes later, though it felt like hours. As the boy was rushed into an ambulance, he reached for Maya's hand and held on with surprising strength. "Please don't go," he whispered. "I'm right here," she said. "I promise." At the hospital, chaos reigned. Victims poured in faster than staff could count them. Maya worked alongside her colleagues until her hands shook and her vision blurred. Only when a security guard gently asked her to step aside did she realize she was bleeding, a deep gash along her arm she had ignored entirely. She was being stitched up when the man arrived. He stood in the doorway, tall and rigid, his suit rumpled, eyes red and wild with fear. Behind him trailed a woman in a flawless coat, her expression carefully composed. The room seemed to change when he spoke, as if even the air recognized his voice. "Where is my son?" Maya recognized him from magazines, from news segments playing silently in hospital waiting rooms. Adrian Vale, billionaire CEO, tech visionary, a man whose name moved markets. She stood despite the nurse's protest. "Your son is stable," she said. "He has injuries, but he's alive." Adrian's breath broke out of him in something like a sob. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and took Maya's hands without hesitation. "You saved him," he said. It was not a question. "I did my job," she replied, though her voice shook now, the adrenaline finally draining away. His fiancée, Celeste, watched from the doorway. She was beautiful in a polished, distant way, her gaze sharp as it flicked from Maya's bandaged arm to Adrian's tight grip. When she smiled, it did not reach her eyes. The days that followed blurred together. Maya returned to work, to her small apartment, to a life that had always been about surviving quietly. She did not expect anything more, but Adrian did not disappear. He visited his son, Leo, every day. And every day he sought Maya out to thank her again. At first it was awkward, their conversations stiff and careful. But Leo adored her, insisting she sit by his bed, asking endless questions about her job, her favorite food, whether she believed in superheroes. "You're mine," he declared one afternoon, grinning. "My hero nurse." Something warm and dangerous settled in Maya's chest. As Leo healed, Maya noticed things she could not ignore. The way Celeste never stayed long, always citing meetings or calls. The way Leo's face fell when she left. The way Adrian watched his son with a mixture of love and guilt so deep it seemed to bend his spine. One evening, as rain streaked the hospital windows, Adrian finally spoke the truth aloud. "I was supposed to be with him that morning," he said quietly. "Celeste convinced me to take an earlier meeting. She said the bridge was faster." Maya felt a flicker of unease. "She couldn't have known," she said gently. Adrian nodded, but his jaw tightened. "No, but there are things I'm starting to see." The truth came out slowly, like blood seeping through fabric. A concerned assistant confided in Adrian about financial irregularities. An anonymous email hinted at bribes and falsified safety reports. Then a whistleblower from a construction firm came forward with documents showing that the bridge maintenance contract had been altered, corners cut, inspections skipped. All trails led back to Celeste. The woman Adrian thought he knew had been quietly siphoning money, manipulating contracts, and silencing objections to protect her own interests. The bridge collapse was not an accident. It was the inevitable result of greed carefully hidden behind elegance and charm. When confronted, Celeste did not cry. She did not deny it. She only looked at Adrian and said, "I did it for us." Security escorted her out of his life, and soon after, investigators escorted her into custody. The fallout was brutal. Adrian faced public scrutiny, lawsuits, headlines that painted him as either villain or victim depending on the day. Through it all, Leo clung to Maya, and Maya found herself there more often than not, reading stories, helping with physical therapy, becoming something she never expected to be. Family. The challenges were not only external. Maya struggled with her own doubts. She came from nothing. She had worked her way through school, lost her parents young, learned not to rely on anyone. Standing in Adrian's world felt like walking on glass. "I don't belong here," she said once, late at night, when Leo was asleep and the city lights glowed below the window. Adrian looked at her steadily. "You belong wherever you choose to stand," he said, "and my son chose you." Months passed. The bridge was rebuilt, stronger, safer, its opening marked by a quiet memorial rather than a celebration. Celeste was sentenced. The victims were remembered. The city healed slowly. Leo walked again. Not without pain, not without tears, but with determination that made Maya proud beyond words. On the day he took his first unaided steps, he looked straight at her and smiled, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Adrian changed, too. He stepped back from the relentless chase of growth and profit, investing instead in safety, transparency, and people. He established a foundation in Maya's name, dedicated to emergency responders and nurses who ran toward danger when others ran away. When he asked Maya to help lead it, she hesitated only a moment before saying yes. On the anniversary of the collapse, they stood together on the bridge at sunrise. The river flowed quietly beneath them, reflecting the light like a promise. "I used to think power was control," Adrian said. "Now I know it's responsibility." Maya squeezed his hand. "And courage," she added, "the kind that chooses to care." Leo laughed between them, whole and alive, and in that sound was the answer to every question the darkness had ever asked. Sometimes a life is saved not just by quick hands and steady training, but by the willingness to step forward when fear says to turn away. And sometimes, from the ruins of greed and tragedy, something better rises. Not perfect, but honest, strong, and filled with hope.